My name is Alex, I am 36 years old, and I have been married to my wife Megan, who is now 34, for almost 8 years. We met back in college and things took off quickly. She was bright, sharp, and had this fiery personality that instantly stood out from everyone else. I was convinced I had found my person for life. We built a decent life together. We bought a house, never had kids, which, as I now realize, was probably a blessing, and just lived with our 2 cats. I work in IT, she works in PR. To our friends, we were always the perfect couple, the ones people joked about being disgustingly compatible. But about a year ago, I started noticing strange changes. At first, it was small things. She suddenly became too busy for our traditional Friday date nights that we never missed. She started nitpicking everything: how I loaded the dishwasher, what I wore, even how I breathed. Her phone, which used to lie around the house unlocked and unattended, was now always in her hands. Screen down, locked, and on silent. When I carefully asked her about it, Megan snapped back, "Can't you just give me some privacy? Why are you acting paranoid?" I kept telling myself it was just stress. She was working long hours, pushing for a promotion. Maybe she was exhausted. Maybe I was overthinking it. But deep down, something in my gut was screaming that things were not right. And very soon, I was about to find out that this gut feeling was absolutely right. The night everything came crashing down started out so normal it almost makes me laugh now. Megan told me she had to stay late at the office for a last-minute presentation. I didn't think much of it. Ordered some pizza, played with the cats, tried to unwind. Around midnight, I woke up because I heard noises outside. Our cats were restless, pacing near the window. I figured Megan was finally home. But when I looked outside, her car wasn't in the driveway. I called her phone, and it went straight to voicemail. An hour later, she walked in. Hair messy, makeup smudged, and she reeked of alcohol and some cologne that wasn't mine. She tossed her bag onto the couch and shot me this look, like she was annoyed I was even awake. "What are you doing up? Don't you have work tomorrow?" she asked, as if I was the one acting suspicious. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling. Something inside me screamed that I had to check. The next morning, while she was in the shower, I picked up her phone. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it, but I got in. And that's when my world fell apart. There was a thread with someone named Mark Work. At first glance, maybe it could have looked professional, but the messages told a completely different story. "Last night was unreal. I can't stop thinking about you. Wish you were here instead of him. Next time let's not rush the hotel checkout. I just want to stay in bed with you all day." And then there were the pictures. Pictures that left no room for excuses. My stomach dropped. I felt like I was going to throw up right there on the kitchen floor. In that moment, every suspicion, every argument, every excuse she ever gave me made sick, twisted sense. And I knew the truth. My wife was cheating on me. I didn't plan it, didn't rehearse what to say, didn't even think it through. That evening when she came home, I just looked at her and said, "Who's Mark?" She froze for half a second, then narrowed her eyes like I had just insulted her. "Wow, Alex. Snooping through my phone now? That's really pathetic." No denial, no shock, just instant hostility, like I was the one in the wrong. I told her I'd seen the texts, the pictures, everything. My voice was shaking, but I kept going, listing the things she couldn't possibly explain away. And that's when she started shifting gears like a pro liar. First, she scoffed and said, "It's just flirting. God, you're so dramatic. If you actually gave me some attention, maybe I wouldn't need it." When I didn't back down, she rolled her eyes and muttered, "Fine, we kissed once, big deal. Stop acting like it's the end of the world." And when I pushed harder, demanding the full truth, she snapped and shouted, "Okay, yes, I slept with him. Are you happy now? Is this the performance you wanted?" I just stood there in shock. The woman I'd built my life with had just confessed to cheating on me, and the only emotion she showed was irritation. No guilt, no sadness, no remorse, just annoyance that she'd been caught. She even had the audacity to smirk, like she had the upper hand. That was the moment it hit me. This wasn't just betrayal. This was contempt. She didn't care about me, about us, or about the wreckage she'd caused. And I realized I wasn't just fighting for answers. I was up against someone who had already burned the bridge and was watching me drown from the other side. The minutes after that confession felt like hours. My whole body was shaking. I could barely hear myself over the pounding in my ears. I'd always thought that if something like this ever happened, I'd know what to say, how to react. But in reality, I was speechless. When I finally found my voice, it came out as a yell. I asked her if she even realized what she had done, if she understood she had destroyed everything we'd built. She rolled her eyes and said, "Oh my God, Alex, stop being so dramatic. It was just sex. You act like I murdered someone." That was the breaking point for me. The rage came flooding in. I slammed my fist against the counter, and our cats darted out of the room. I shouted, louder than I've ever shouted in my life, that she had humiliated me, disrespected me, and spat on our marriage. Her response? A cold, dismissive shrug. "If you weren't so boring, maybe I wouldn't have to look elsewhere." I swear, those words felt like knives. It wasn't just the affair, it was the way she made me feel like it was somehow my fault, like I had driven her to it. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room, staring at the dark, trying to process what had just happened. My marriage, the thing I thought was the foundation of my life, had crumbled in front of me. And worse than that, the person I thought I knew better than anyone turned out to be a stranger who could look me in the eye and twist the knife deeper. After the rage burned itself out, I was left with this crushing emptiness. It's like my body had no energy left to even feel anger. I sat there the next morning with a cup of coffee I didn't drink, staring at the kitchen wall, completely numb. Megan came downstairs in her robe like nothing had happened. She poured herself coffee, scrolled through her phone, and didn't even look at me. Not one word. That indifference hurt more than the cheating itself. It was like I didn't exist to her anymore. The sadness hit me like waves. I thought about our wedding day, how she cried when she said her vows. I thought about the trip to Italy we swore we'd repeat for our 10th anniversary. I thought about the little rituals, like how she always stole the blankets at night. Now all of it felt fake, like it belonged to another life that I somehow dreamed up. At work, I pretended everything was fine. Just tired, I'd say when people asked why I looked like hell. In reality, I barely ate, barely slept. Nights were the worst. I'd lie in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering how many times she'd lied straight to my face, how many nights I'd kissed her goodnight while she was texting another man. The anger had been sharp and hot, but the sadness was heavy. It weighed me down everywhere I went. And worst of all, I started to wonder if maybe she was right. Maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe I had failed her. That thought was poison, but it crept in no matter how hard I tried to push it away. I thought the worst was behind me after the confession. I was wrong. The lies started unraveling so fast it felt like every day brought a new gut punch. A buddy of mine, Ryan, called me out of the blue. His wife works at the same company as Megan. He asked if I was doing okay because apparently everyone at her office knew about her and Mark. She wasn't discreet. People had seen them leaving together, holding hands, even checking into hotels during conferences. Everyone but me knew. I was the last to find out, like some kind of clown. Then there was the trip she swore was a client meeting in Chicago. Turns out, it was a getaway with him. She slipped up one night, half drunk, and mentioned a fancy dinner at a restaurant in town. Funny thing, there's no way she could have gone there if she was in Chicago. The final nail was a hotel receipt I found crumpled in her purse. Same weekend she told me she was staying with her mom to help with spring cleaning. The receipt was right there, like she didn't even care enough to hide it. When I confronted her with all this, she didn't apologize. She doubled down. "You're obsessed. You're pathetic. If you were half the man Mark is, I wouldn't have needed him." That was her line, and she spat it like venom. Every discovery made my chest tighter, my vision darker. It wasn't just betrayal anymore, it was humiliation. I realized I wasn't living with a wife. I was living with a liar who had absolutely no respect for me. And the scariest part was, I started to see that maybe she enjoyed watching me fall apart. The breaking point came one Friday night. I had dragged myself home after a brutal week at work, hoping for nothing more than peace and quiet. Megan waltzed in close to midnight, smelling like alcohol and a man's cologne, her hair messy, lipstick smudged. She tossed her heels onto the floor and headed straight for the kitchen like she owned the place. I asked her where she had been. My voice was calm at first, almost too calm. She smirked and said, "Out. Why do you care?" That smirk lit a fire in me. I laid it all out, the hotel receipts, the texts, the gossip from her coworkers. I told her I wasn't an idiot and I wasn't going to let her gaslight me anymore. She stared at me for a long second, then laughed. Not nervous laughter. Not guilty laughter. A sharp, mocking laugh that cut me deeper than anything else. "God, Alex, you're so pathetic. You should be grateful someone like me even married you." I saw red. I slammed my hand on the table so hard the cats bolted upstairs. My voice cracked as I shouted, "Do you even realize what you've done to us? To me? To everything we built?" Her answer, "You'll get over it. Men always do." That was it. That was the moment I knew there was no coming back from this. She didn't care. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even pretending anymore. She stormed upstairs, slammed the bedroom door, and left me standing alone in the kitchen, shaking, my heart racing, staring at a marriage that was already ashes. The line had been drawn. Before that night, some stupid part of me still hoped things could be fixed. After it, I knew the only way forward was out. After that fight, the house turned into a tomb. We barely spoke. When we did, it was short, sharp, and poisoned. Megan moved into the guest room, claiming she needed space, but we both knew what it really meant. I didn't argue. I couldn't. I was too drained. The silence was worse than the shouting. At least shouting felt alive. The silence was just nothing. Cold, empty air filling the space where a marriage used to be. She'd pass me in the hallway without looking at me. She'd cook for herself, eat by herself, laugh on the phone with her friends like everything was fine, while I sat in the living room with the cats, staring at the wall. Every once in a while, she'd throw little barbs just to twist the knife. "Don't wait up for me. Mark actually likes spending time with me." Or, "Maybe if you went to the gym once in a while, I wouldn't have had to find someone else." She knew exactly how to hit where it hurt, and she did it without hesitation. I didn't even fight back anymore. What was the point? It was like arguing with a storm. You can yell all you want, but it'll just drown you out. Instead, I let the silence swallow me. Went to work, came home, fed the cats, sat in the dark. My life shrank to a routine of survival. In some twisted way, it felt like she enjoyed watching me crumble. The more distant she got, the more weight I carried, until one day I realized I wasn't just losing her. I was losing myself. The final straw came when Megan announced she had to fly out to Denver for a big client presentation. She showed me her itinerary, complete with flight numbers and a hotel booking. She made such a performance out of it, over-explaining every detail, that it set off alarms in my head. The night she was supposed to be in Denver, I got a call from Ryan. He and his wife had gone out for drinks downtown, and guess who they saw? Megan. Not in Denver. Not at some business hotel. But right there in a booth with Mark, feeding him fries like they were on a date. When she came home from her trip, I asked her casually how Denver was. She went into this long, rehearsed story about meetings, the hotel, even the weather. I let her talk, then pulled out my phone and showed her the pictures Ryan had sent me. Clear as day, Megan and Mark together at that bar. Her face went pale for a split second, then hardened. "Ryan hates me. Of course he'd make something up." When I pressed her, she snapped, "So what if I lied? You've been suffocating me for years. Mark makes me feel alive." That was it. The mask was gone. No excuses, no pretending anymore. She looked me in the eye and admitted it like she was proud of it. And that was the lie that broke everything wide open. Any shred of doubt I had left was gone. The marriage wasn't just dead, it was rotting. After that blow-up, I hit rock bottom. The anger, the sadness, the numbness, they all blended into one heavy fog that followed me everywhere. I'd lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, hearing her words on repeat. "Mark makes me feel alive." It was like poison running through my veins. I stopped eating properly. Coffee and maybe a sandwich here and there were all I managed most days. My friends noticed. Ryan texted, asking if I wanted to grab a beer, and I ignored him. My family called, and I let it go to voicemail. I couldn't face anyone. I felt humiliated, like everyone was laughing at me behind my back for being the last one to see the truth. At work, I was a ghost. I'd sit at my desk, staring at the screen, pretending to type. My boss pulled me aside one afternoon and said, "Alex, are you okay? You don't seem yourself." I wanted to tell him everything, scream that my life had exploded, but instead I just muttered, "Yeah, just tired." Nights were the worst. The silence of the house pressed down on me, and even the cats seemed restless, pacing like they could feel the tension. I'd sit in the dark, wondering how the hell I ended up here, married to someone who could look me in the eye and treat me like trash without a shred of guilt. For the first time in my life, I felt completely hollow. Like I wasn't even a person anymore, just a shell walking through the motions. That was rock bottom. And I knew if I didn't do something soon, I was going to disappear in it. One night, sitting at the kitchen table long after Megan had gone to bed, I realized I couldn't keep living like this. I was breaking down, piece by piece, while she carried on without a care in the world. Something had to give. I grabbed a notepad and drew 2 columns, stay and leave. Under stay, I wrote, lies, humiliation, constant contempt, no respect, no love. Under leave, I wrote, pain, uncertainty, starting over, but also, freedom, peace, a chance to heal. The list stared back at me like it had been waiting for me all along. Staying meant dying slowly inside. Leaving meant ripping the bandage off, facing the storm, but at least it gave me a chance to breathe again. The next morning, I told Megan I wanted a divorce. I expected yelling, tears, maybe even some twisted attempt to patch things up. Instead, she laughed. Actually laughed. "Good luck," she sneered. "No one else is going to put up with you. Mark already said he'll take care of me." And in that moment, the last chain snapped. I felt a strange calm come over me, like I'd finally let go of a weight I'd been dragging for years. She thought her words would crush me, but instead they freed me. For the first time in months, I felt clarity. The marriage was over, and now it was time to take my life back. The morning after I told Megan I wanted a divorce, I called a lawyer. I was nervous, ashamed even, but the moment I sat down in his office and laid it all out, he didn't sugarcoat it. "Alex, she's cheated, she's admitted it, and she's shown you nothing but contempt. File as soon as possible. Protect yourself." His bluntness was like a slap, but it was the reality check I needed. I started gathering everything: bank statements, mortgage papers, insurance documents. Every piece of our life together turned into evidence, like I was dismantling the marriage brick by brick. When the papers were ready and I handed them to Megan, she scoffed. "Finally growing a spine, huh? Don't think you're screwing me over. Mark already promised he'll take care of me." She said it with a smirk, like the whole thing was a game she'd already won. Packing up was brutal. Every item had a memory attached to it: the couch we bought together, the photo from our Italy trip, even stupid little things like mugs we picked up on a road trip. I boxed up what was mine, left the rest, and told myself, they're just things. My peace matters more. The one battle I wasn't going to lose was over the cats. She didn't fight me for them, probably because deep down she knew they preferred me. They were the only source of comfort I had left, and I wasn't letting them go. The day I closed the front door behind me, leaving the keys on the counter, I felt 2 things at once: devastation and relief. My marriage was over, but for the first time in months, I could actually breathe. Moving into my own place felt surreal. I went from a 3-bedroom house to a small 1-bedroom apartment. Half the size, bare walls, second-hand furniture, but it was mine. No lies, no tension, no Megan. The first few nights were rough. I'd catch myself setting out 2 mugs for coffee in the morning before realizing it was just me now. The bed felt massive and empty. The silence was strange, but not the suffocating kind I'd gotten used to. It was clean, peaceful silence. The cats adjusted quickly, curling up next to me like they knew I needed them. They were my lifeline during those weeks, reminding me that not everything in my life had been poisoned. Of course, the aftershocks came hard. Running into mutual friends who gave me that pity look, like they didn't know what to say. Scrolling through social media and accidentally seeing Megan and Mark together, smiling like they hadn't burned my life to the ground. waking up at 3 a.m., sweating, replaying the fights and the lies in my head. But slowly, something shifted. The longer I was away from her, the clearer things became. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't worthless. I was loyal to someone who didn't deserve it, and now I finally had the space to see her for who she really was. It was still painful. I was still grieving. But for the first time in months, I felt like I had a chance at healing. Looking back, I see things with a clarity I didn't have when I was in the middle of it. Megan's affair wasn't the only betrayal, it was just the loudest one. The truth is, she had been chipping away at me for years. The sarcasm that cut too deep, the way she dismissed my feelings, the constant nitpicking. I used to brush it off as her strong personality. Now I know it was contempt. The affair just ripped the mask off. She never really respected me. Maybe she never even loved me the way I thought. To her, I was safe, reliable, predictable. When that wasn't exciting anymore, she chased someone else and blamed me for her choices. What I learned: listen to your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. I spent months telling myself I was paranoid, but deep down, I knew. Contempt is poison. Once your partner looks at you with disgust instead of love, it's over, no matter what excuses you make. You can survive betrayal. At first, I thought losing her would destroy me. It didn't. It hurt like hell, but I'm still here, and I'm stronger for it. Most importantly, I learned that being alone is so much better than being with someone who makes you feel worthless. Freedom may be painful at first, but it's also the first step to peace. Once the dust settled, I started focusing on myself for the first time in years. It wasn't easy. Some mornings I woke up with a knot in my chest, wondering how I'd make it through the day. But I forced myself into routines. I went to the gym, even when I didn't feel like it. I cooked proper meals instead of living on takeout. I reached out to friends I had pushed away and told them the truth about what happened. The more I talked about it, the less power it had over me. Every time I said, "She cheated, she lied, she disrespected me," I felt lighter. It wasn't my shame to carry anymore. It was hers. I also started therapy. At first, I felt embarrassed, like admitting I needed help made me weak. But it turned out to be one of the best decisions I ever made. My therapist helped me unpack the guilt, the anger, and the constant what-ifs. She reminded me that healing isn't about forgetting, it's about rebuilding. Little by little, I felt my strength coming back. I stopped seeing myself as the victim of Megan's choices and started seeing myself as the survivor of them. She had tried to break me, but here I was, still standing, still breathing, still moving forward. It wasn't about winning or proving her wrong. It was about proving to myself that I could have a life again, one that was mine alone. When the divorce was finalized, I expected to feel broken all over again. Instead, I felt lighter. The papers were just paperwork, but signing them was like cutting the last rope that had been holding me down. Life on the other side wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I redecorated the apartment, made it feel like home. No more neutral colors Megan insisted on. I hung up posters I liked, bought furniture that was comfortable instead of aesthetic. For the first time in years, my space reflected me. I also reconnected with people I'd lost touch with. Ryan and I started meeting for drinks again, and he admitted he'd wanted to say something for months but didn't know how. Instead of being angry, I was grateful, because now I understood how isolating Megan had made me. I traveled, too. Nothing huge, just weekend trips to places I'd always said I'd go but never did. Hiking trails, little coastal towns, even just day trips out of the city. Each one felt like reclaiming a piece of myself I'd forgotten. The strangest thing, I started enjoying the quiet. For so long, silence in that house with Megan felt suffocating. In my apartment, silence felt like freedom. It was the sound of not being lied to, not being insulted, not being betrayed. I wasn't over it yet, but I was beginning. And that was enough. Even though I cut ties with Megan, the world has a funny way of keeping you updated on people you'd rather forget. A few months after the divorce, a mutual friend casually mentioned seeing her and Mark together. "They looked happy," he said, then quickly added, "Sorry man, I shouldn't have said that." At first, those updates cut deep. I'd picture them laughing over dinner, going on trips, living the life she used to promise me. The thought made my chest tighten, like I was still chained to her even though we were done. Then came the gossip. Someone told me Mark was still married when their affair started. His wife eventually found out, and the fallout was ugly. Lawyers, kids caught in the middle, the whole mess. Suddenly, Megan wasn't just the other woman's husband's mistress. She was the woman who helped blow up another family. And then, slowly, the updates turned sour. I heard they were fighting in public, that Megan was already complaining about how much Mark worked, that she'd been seen out with another guy. At first I didn't know how to feel. Part of me wanted to laugh, part of me still felt that stab of old pain. But the strongest feeling I had was relief. Relief that it wasn't my circus anymore. Whatever drama, lies, and chaos Megan carried with her, she carried it away from me. For the first time, I wasn't jealous. I wasn't even angry. I was free. With Megan gone from my life, I finally had the space to figure out who I actually was without her shadow hanging over me. For years, I had bent myself into shapes to avoid her criticism, to keep the peace, to make her happy. Now, for the first time, I didn't have to. I picked up old hobbies I'd abandoned. I dusted off my guitar, something Megan used to roll her eyes at and call a waste of time, and started playing again. I joined a local hiking group and spent weekends on trails instead of trapped in arguments. I even started cooking real meals, experimenting in the kitchen without anyone mocking me for making a mess. The changes weren't just on the surface. My confidence started creeping back. I looked in the mirror and didn't just see the guy she tore down. I saw someone who had survived hell and was still standing. Someone who deserved better. Therapy helped too. My therapist told me something that stuck with me. Healing isn't about going back to who you were. It's about becoming who you were meant to be all along. That hit hard. I wasn't trying to rewind to the old me. I was building a new version of myself, one who knew his worth. For the first time in years, I wasn't just existing. I was living. And every small step forward felt like a victory. Acceptance didn't hit me all at once. It crept in slowly, like the first light of morning. One day, I realized I hadn't checked Megan's social media in weeks. Another day, I caught myself laughing with friends and noticed the weight in my chest wasn't there anymore. The memories were still there, the betrayal, the lies, the nights of silence. But they stopped controlling me. They became just that, memories. Painful, yes, but part of the past, not my present. I stopped asking why. Why she cheated. Why she treated me with such contempt. Why I didn't see it sooner. Those questions had haunted me for months, but I finally understood that no answer would ever make it make sense. She cheated because that's who she is, not because of who I am. One evening, I sat on my balcony with a beer, the cats curled up beside me, and I felt something I hadn't in a long time, peace. Not joy, not excitement, just quiet, steady peace. I didn't need her, I didn't miss her, and I didn't want her back. That was acceptance. The moment I knew the past didn't own me anymore. Now that I've made it through the storm, I can look back and see the lessons clearly. If you're reading this because you're suspicious of your partner or because you've been through something similar, here's what I want you to know. Trust your instincts. I spent months gaslighting myself, convincing myself I was paranoid. But deep down I knew. Your gut is rarely wrong. Don't let anyone, especially the person betraying you, convince you otherwise. Pay attention to respect. Love can fade, passion can shift, but respect is non-negotiable. The moment your partner starts treating you with contempt, the relationship is already broken. Don't ignore it. And most importantly, you will survive this. In the beginning, I thought Megan's betrayal had destroyed me. I thought I'd never recover, never be myself again. But here I am, different, stronger, and freer than I've been in years. The pain doesn't last forever. The freedom, the peace, the rediscovery of yourself, those things are worth it. If you're standing where I stood, staring down the barrel of betrayal, know this: leaving hurts, but staying will kill you slowly. Choose yourself. Choose peace. Choose freedom. As for me, I don't know exactly what the future holds, but I know one thing: I'll never let anyone make me feel worthless again.